Hi, guys. Teacher story time. Um, so, if you've been following me for a long time, you know that I'm old school. You know that I'm old fashioned. You know that I get a lot of hate for respectability politics. I've gotten a lot of hate for my opinions on bonnets and pants sagging and etc. etc. Okay, you got it? You feel me? Okay. So this weekend, you guys know I have my specialized program for scholars. We were invited by a very elite program to go see Hadestown and have a dinner discussion afterwards. Now, the organization that invites us doesn't charge the students. It's an amazing time. We have been to see plays, we have been to the opera, we have been to art exhibits, we have been to libraries, and it's always some kind of event followed by a dinner and discussion about the events. We have had opportunities to meet the actors, the curators of the museums. Like, it's always a phenomenal experience, not just for my students, but for me too. There's your preface, okay? Okay, got it? Good. So we get to the theater and we're standing in line, and it was my students from my school, our program, and two other school programs. So, as the organizer for this event is giving out the tickets, she's calling attendance. One of my students comes up and whispers in my ear. She's like, Miss EJ, I think those kids are here for this, and one of the girls has a bonnet. And as she's whispering, the organizer for our event did one of those. Like, asked the young lady, Hi, you mind taking the bonnet off, please? This is not the venue for that. So the girl takes it off and then moments later puts it back on. Now, it was not my event, okay? Let's be clear. My students know me. I never have to say anything. They were dressed to the nine. It was freezing outside. They didn't care. They knew this was an amazing opportunity, so they dressed the part. It was theater and a dinner, okay? And we're not going to some regular schmegular, like three-course meal. Three-course meal, appetizer, entree, dessert. Food just kept on coming. So a full experience for our scholars, okay? Okay. Get inside the theater. My kid's excited, eh, beautiful. Get to a part where the play is over. It was amazing. If you haven't seen Hadestown, go see Hadestown. It's phenomenal. And the organizer, she's like, okay, scholars, please remain seated. We're just going to wait a few minutes. They didn't know, but I knew. And one of my girls, two moments I wish I could have captured on film. I got one on film actually, but when one of my girls stood up to kind of just stretch and wait, she was like, "Oh, what are we waiting for? I thought we were getting ready to walk to the restaurant," and I'm like, "Shh, we're going downstairs to meet the cast and talk to them." What? What? I forget the lead, Jordan. Oh gosh, please don't. The lead character evidently was a big deal for these kids when they were growing up. So the kids got to speak with the actors. It was amazing, wonderful, thoughtful, insightful. They answered their questions. It was such a my one of my girls was just overcome with emotion. She's a singer, just fantastic. The other students kind of hoodies on. We get to the restaurant. My students, there are two tables. My students sat with me, the other students sat at the other table. hoodies on, baseball caps on. These students and their chaperone, hoodies, sweats, pajamas, Crocs, sneakers, baseball caps, and let's not forget the bonnet. Sitting at the table. Now, again, I'm old school. You couldn't be sitting at my dining table to break bread with me with your hoodie on, with your baseball cap on. Like, no. So I'm talking to the organizer as we're, getting ready to finish up. She's furious. We've talked in the past about etiquette classes, but mostly how to eat, what forks to use, when to, at the end of your meal, like etiquette, how to tie ties. And I said, maybe it's time that we bring this etiquette class to fruition. And she said, that's great and all. She said, but we shouldn't have to. If you're told and you're invited by an elite program for a play and dinner, uh, 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 art exhibit and dinner, opera and dinner, we unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, assume that as chaperones, you know better. This chaperone didn't know better. So you can't fault the students because the chaperone also looked like they rolled out of bed or they was going to hang out, go play basketball, go catch a movie. You know what I'm saying? My students, I was so proud of them. The other part that was really upsetting. So now dinner is over. My students are gushing. We had a student that kind of jumped in on the trip on the last minute. Somebody fell out. So a friend of one of my students, they took him to Target to change his clothes, to get like a shirt and some pants. Okay? Because they were like, listen, if you're going to come with us, you got to look the part. So even though you're coming last minute, you can't go in there. He was dressed and apologetic because he couldn't change his shoes. Meanwhile, these other kids didn't care. My kids were appreciative. They were thankful. They were engaged. These other kids, not so much. And then the end of the evening, there wasn't that outpouring of appreciation, which I thought at that. So you didn't dress the part. You really weren't engaging. You clearly you didn't want to be here. You acted like you didn't want to be here. And then you could not even pretend to be appreciative for this free play, free 3-course meal dinner. But then I get flack for respectability politics. Make no mistakes. And my students said it. They were like, Missy J, you wouldn't have let us come on this trip with that. Absolutely not. Not only would you have not been able to come into the play, you was going to pay me for that seat. You was going to pay me for that seat. You wasn't getting in, and you was going to pay me for that seat. It ain't no way. And this is the thing that I don't understand with, I can't even, I can't even say the students today because the chaperone was just as bad. And understand this elite program. So please don't make this a thing about money because it wasn't. Because them kids had on the Gucci. They all had the T-Foul bag. They all had their Michael Kors. Like, it's not about the money. They all had the Air Force Ones. So it ain't about the money. Let's be clear on that. But had they said, we don't have professional attire, dress attire, this elite program would have dressed them, would have taken them and gotten them the clothes that they needed. But it wasn't about money because they had expensive clothes. So, an unfortunate lesson. And now this group will never be invited back to experience the things that my students get to experience. Lesson, I'm saying.